words of the Venerable Bob Ross, the smooth-spoken, wet-on-wet oil canvas painter of our youth. I don't know about you, but I always watched it on my days off from school. And I could never figure out how to make a beautiful landscape with a 2-inch chip brush. But I can finish a car and paint a car. So basically what happened was Thursday when I sprayed the truck, I'm getting old and slow, and it took me too long to tape the truck up and finish it all in one day. So what I did was I based the truck out, and the sun was going down, and I said, you know what, discretion is the better part of valor, and I pulled the plug, and I think I may have mentioned that in one of my other videos. This is okay. The downside to that is it's now been raining here ever since then. And this booth is not waterproof. The sailcloth is not waterproof, it's water resistant. It's very much like an old canvas tent, or any tent really. So what happened was I had some leakage in the booth, some water leakage. Now, this isn't a tragedy. As a matter of fact, it is a little bit of a happy mistake. One of the things that I experienced with this booth pretty much out of the box was that it doesn't have enough airflow in it. The side effect of that airflow is the overspray that I showed in one of my other videos. Sticking to the walls, it's all over the floor, and kind of made a bit of a mess inside the booth. So yesterday, before it started to rain, I ran out to my local big box store and purchased mops and Swippers and a bunch of other things, basically mops and Swippers, to clean the inside of the booth before I applied the clear. I also bought a different set of filters for the extractors. I'm taking the black carbon filters out, and I'm putting regular, a second layer of filtration in that's not as dense as the carbon filters that were supplied with the booth to help increase airflow out. I did one side, I didn't do the other side. This side, I used 16 by 20 filters. They're not quite big enough. I'd have to actually measure it, but I don't know if you can see in the video. You can kind of see the filters, the frames of the filters. Now I had these laying around. I'm actually using one as an intake filter for the booth, the air makeup in this booth here. I just stuck it on top of the intake for the air. So the downside to this problem, the water, is the truck got wet. It absolutely did get wet, and it actually deflated yesterday afternoon. I went to the club, had a couple drinks, and on my way home, or I got home, I passed out, and my wife yells downstairs, "Mike, your booth's deflating." I came outside, and the structure inflation fans went offline. They tripped the ground fault interrupter. Now that could be a lot of reasons. It could be from the moisture. It could be a lot of reasons that they tripped out. Now they had been running for over 24 hours at that point, so anything was possible. I reset the breakers, re-inflated the booth, and everything worked fine. I think before I start painting today, now I am running 2 of the blowers off of one circuit. I'm going to split that, and I'm going to run the smaller blower off another circuit. So I have 3 separate circuits, 3 separate fans running on 3 separate circuits. In case something does go south again, not all 3 will go. So one went, or the two inflation blowers went, but the air makeup blower was still going. It actually kept the booth off the vehicle, which was really nice. So the happy mistake here is that the whole inside of the booth is now wet. When you're professionally painting a car in a spray booth, you always wet the booth. You slime the walls, you slime the floors, you wet the booth. In between coats, you keep buckets of water in the booth to keep the dust down. Because even in a professional spray booth, you get overspray that falls down and lands on the floor. Even in a downdraft booth, you'll have overspray that lays on the floor and it gets kicked up by your feet, you get dust and dirt and shit like that. So basically today what I'm going to do is, I have some nice clean towels. I'm going to just get my blow gun out, get my earplugs in, get my blow gun out. I'm going to blow this thing off and wipe it off, blow the water off of it, give it a good once over to sand out, nib out any dirt or whatever that's in it. And then I'm going to recoat it with one coat, one nice coat of base coat, and then we're clearing today. I possibly don't have to sand and re-spray it with base, but I'm going to take that precautionary measure just because experience has taught me that base coat doesn't like to sit for 48 hours before you clear over it. It's nice to do it, and it does turn out really nice, but I'm a little concerned about mid-coat adhesion or adhesion between the base and the clear. They are designed to chemically bond to one another, but I'm just a little bit leery of doing that. Now this is single stage base, a solid color base coat, so it's not a huge issue. If this was like a metallic or something like that, I'd be a little bit more concerned. And I read the technical data sheet and it said after 24 hours at 77 degrees Fahrenheit, you should depending on humidity and blah, 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 you should recoat to ensure color uniformity. And well, it's black, so hopefully it should be uniform all over, but you never know. I'm going to blow it off, wipe it off, check it for any imperfections, nib it out, whack it with another coat of base coat. I'm not going to I was going to Scotch Brite the whole thing, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to nib out the spots that are bad and just apply one single coat of base coat. I do have a dry spot right here in the hood, and I can't tell whether or not that dry spot is painting in the spring is not a good idea, especially outside. Is that a good place to be? I'm going to blow it out really good too, because I'm going to very carefully wipe it off first with a nice clean dry towel to get all the moisture that I can see, and then I'm going to blow it out. Guaranteed somewhere on this truck there's a drop of water that's going to run out in my second coat of clear. Guaranteed every time. So I did, like I said, bought mops. I bought a couple mops. I have a puddle going on down here in the corner, which I was concerned about. I am a little concerned because of the water for two reasons. One is guaranteed something might drip out while I'm painting. I'm hoping it doesn't. I hope the booth itself physically dries out. The floor of the booth isn't going to dry out, and it's a little slippery between the plastic tarp and the booth itself. I had to go talk to management real quick. So yeah, basically just a towel, wipe off. Now I had the forethought to actually wipe off the hood and the tops of the fenders and stuff yesterday before I left. So there was no overspray or dry paint on the truck itself. So the important parts, the hood, the tops of the fenders, doors, things, they're relatively clean. Now the roof is another story. And actually some water puddled in here, which has got to go. Like I said, water in a paint booth isn't a bad thing. As a matter of fact, the olden days, they actually used water as an extractor for the EPA, put the kibosh on that, because the water then becomes toxic waste. I'm such a small level of water here. It's not a huge deal. Pennsylvania's pretty. Not a big deal. And now, if I was in California or someplace like that, I probably wouldn't be doing this. Even though booths like this work really good in those kind of beautiful environments. So I got to get up to do the roof. I didn't do, like I said, I didn't wipe the roof off. So there's some spotting on the roof, which is, once again, it's not a huge deal. What's a little bit more bothersome to me is that there's water in between the floor of there's water in between the floor of the booth and the blue tarp, which has created a little bit of a slipping hazard. And there's a little bit of condensate, I think, on the side of the truck. So I gotta let this thing warm up a good bit before I do any spray.
All right, so I got my first coat of clear on it, and it's doing pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to do. It's just not flowing enough air through the booth itself, and it's starting to get a little fallout on the clear. Because when I sprayed the base coat, I knew that was going to happen. I actually painted the hood first. The assumption being that any of the fallout that lands on the hood, I could sand and polish out. If I'd have started in the back like I did originally, it would have caused a lot of dry overspray on the hood. And I have dirt, so I'm kind of pissed about the dirt. I was really hoping I could avoid some of it. Basically, it's no better than painting on the floor of my old body shop, dirt-wise. It's taking the 1 liter cup and 2 of the half-liter cup, so it's taking 2 liters of paint for each coat. Now, the one upside to this is I don't have to clear below that one line, so I put 1 coat of clear down there, and I'm probably not going to go any further because that's going to get Raptor liner. So I have plenty of clear. I didn't want to have to sand and polish this thing like a Maserati, but apparently that's what I'm going to have to do. I prepared for that. I knew it was going to happen, so I was, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And in this case, it's not the worst. It's not the dirtiest job I've ever done, but it's definitely got too much dirt in it to not sand and polish, which is a real shame because the Satajet 550 is working great, or 5500 is working great. I bought a GoPro to put on my head to paint with, and I can't work the GoPro and my phone at the same time. I don't feel like doing that, setting all that shit up right now. I'm running out of time. It's about I don't even know what time it is, but it's getting late. And I need to have this thing done, buttoned up, finished, painted. No more, oh yeah, and this is how much sweat I got going on. Completely 100% all the coats of paint on it by no later than 2 o'clock, and I'm pushing the limits. It's actually ready to throw another coat on. If I had to do it again, I would have probably bought the slower hardener. But when I bought the paint originally, it was still real cold out, and I underestimated how hot it was going to get in this booth, which is great because the paint's drying really fast. So tomorrow I could probably tape off for the Raptor liner and do all the Raptor liner work and not have to worry about any mapping or anything. My original plan was no dirt, tape the truck off tomorrow, and apply the Raptor liner, untape everything, start putting it together. I think I'm going to do that, and then I'll just fight with the sanding sludge in the Raptor liner. Maybe I can get away with just nibbing it out, but experience has taught me that that never works very well. Nibbing, unless there's only a couple little tiny chunks, just never really works very well for me. I'm going to end up having to sand and polish the whole thing, which is fine. You know, it's my truck, so it's got to look really nice when it's done. I'm going to get back in there, slam another coat of clear on it, and then let it hit, which is it's going to hit fast. It's already hitting pretty fast, and probably turn around and slam a second coat right, or a third coat right on top of the second, because the first coat's already hand slick, which is good and bad, but it is what it is. I'm going to leave the camera running, boy in the bubble. I'm going to go in the back door, actually. I opened this front a little bit to try to get a little bit more airflow through. I opened this front up, but the problem is it's pumping fumes out, and it's a Saturday. I wish I had done this during the day, during the week when nobody was home. Luckily, nobody's out cutting their grass or anything, and I don't think my neighbor's home. So. I decided to speed the video up here because actual application time was about 15 minutes per coat, give or take a little bit. You can see from the video how the overspray is just kind of hanging in the air. And some of this is expected because of the nature of the booth and just the nature of spray painting cars in general. You're going to get overspray. I was pretty happy with the way it cleared out. It took about 10 minutes for the booth to clear completely. This is me applying the third coat of clear. I really slammed this clear on, and it showed in a couple spots. The driver's side front fender has some solvent pops, but it's difficult to explain. If you have to see it to understand what it looks like. Overall, I was pretty happy with the performance of the booth. The exception being how ridiculously hot it was in there. I definitely should have bought the slower drying clear. I was chasing dry edges the entire time. And if you're curious, I am wearing only underwear underneath that chute suit, and I was still sweating like a whore in church. This is after about 10 minutes. You can see that it basically is cleared out by now. I was in the garage cleaning my spray gun and what have you. This video is actually sped up by about 4 times.
Well, that's it. That's the third coat. I actually did put a run in it, which was on the other side. I'll show it later, which is really rare for me, but it happens. I mean, everybody gets them from time to time. It's just in a real weird spot, but when I went back to my third coat, I realized what I did, which was a double pass right there. It might lay out. I'm going to sand it anyway. So I'm going to let this thing air out for a little bit. Well, it's done. Wow, let me rephrase that. It's painted. I just wanted to do a quick walk around of the truck itself. Show some of the screw-ups. I don't know if they're going to show up on camera. I see them. They're glaring. The first one is there's some dirt in it. There's like a piece there. There's some in the hood. And this is to be expected painting in these conditions. Even the best downdraft booth, you're going to get some dirt. The one thing I'm not too crazy about is I'm getting a little dieback. I think that's because I slammed the third coat on pretty hard. And the airflow in the booth isn't great. Like there's 100 overall, it came out relatively nice. I did not clear the bed. I didn't clear the bed because it's getting raptor lined. So tomorrow I'm just going to go in there with a red Scotch-Brite the whole inside, and be done with it. The nice thing I got going on here is that it's real hot in here. And there we go. There's my run right there in the door. You can see it. I can see it. I don't know if it's going to show up. It's real hard to tell.
camera back and forth. I might be able to catch it in the light just right. I couldn't figure out how that happened. It's like the weirdest place and a bad place for a run. I expect runs in here and here. I'm actually pretty famous for putting a hanger usually under the mirror here. But I didn't actually. The tailgate turned out pretty nice. The tailgate is actually pretty indicative of what it should look like. It does have peel in it, and it's going to. Modern cars, painted cars, unless you're in some real high-end shit, they all have a certain level of orange peel, which is acceptable. And the bed actually came out really nice. With an acceptable level of peel. And the hood would have too, except it kind of had some fallout on it. And like I said, it's dying back a little bit. Just as a, let's see if I can get it on camera here. My non-contact thermometer is saying it's 105 degrees, which is actually great. The truck itself, the hood's 107. That's part of the problem with it sucking up. It's not sucking up. It's called dying back. Part of that, I would have rather used a slower hardener, and that would not have happened with a slower hardener. But it's kind of like a trade-off. You use a slower hardener, you run the possibility of more dirt and a longer drying time, but you get rid of your dieback problem. If you use a faster hardener, it dries faster, but it runs the possibility of dying back. Overall, I'm relatively happy with it. It turned out exactly how I thought it was going to, which is to make it look make it look like $1 million. It's going to have to be sanded and polished, which I will do. I planned for that, so I'm just going to have to do it. The other problem is, one of the bigger problems with this part of this project is going to be is actually cleaning the booth itself. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet. I got a couple solvent pops in it here and there. Nothing crazy. I've had worse paint jobs. I've had better. It's pretty much average paint job for me. And using a new gun and completely new materials, that's not bad.